Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that we're in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Huron-Robinson Treaties area. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis people on this land and show respect to them today. As we're learning from our First Nation partners, I want to stress the importance of accepting all of our responsibilities to take care of Mother Earth, her plants, her animals, and our shared peoples. We will look to each other and the elders of both nations as a source of inspiration, guidance, and the living memory of our communities. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. So I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask for an approval of the agenda. There are no addendum items today. Thank you. And are there any pecuniary interests that need to be disclosed or general nature thereof? I see none. So we will move on. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of Council held June 17th, 2024 as circulated. Could I have a motion? Gail, all in favor? Thank you. And for the special meeting, I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the special and closed session meetings of Council held June 24th, 2024 as circulated. Again, could I have a motion? Ken and Maria? All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matter. It's consent application number B 2024-0006-H for Chapnick. I have a motion to move into Greg, Ken. All in favor? Thank you. Council will now hold a public meeting for a proposed consent application. In accordance with the Planning Act, Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to granting a consent. If a person or public body who files an appeal of a decision of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin in respect of a proposed consent does not make written submissions to the Council before it provides or refuses to provide a provisional consent, the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss the appeal. No one other than the prescribed persons may appeal an application under the provisions of the Planning Act. If they do not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin prior to the decision of Council, then the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss the appeal. The purpose of consent application number B 2024-0006-H for Chapnick is to permit a lot addition. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of that meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property on June 13th, 2024, posting on the Township of Seguin's website, and by regular mail on June 17th, 2024. Notice was therefore considered to provide in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the Township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
No correspondence is...
There's no one in the present in the council chambers, but has anyone registered to speak to this application via electronic participation?
Savas Meridas of Plan Muskoka, agent for the applicant, and Jody Chapnick, the applicant, have registered to speak to the application via electronic participation, and both are present.
Savas, do you want to go first for us?
Sure. Members of council, my name is Savas Meridas. I'm from Plan Muskoka, Inc. I'm here representing the applicants as their agent and as a registered professional planner. I really don't have much to add to this application. It really is straightforward. The applicants own both the property that is being severed from and the benefiting lands as well. And they utilize the back portion of them to construct a tennis court. and the tennis court encroached over the property line of one to the other. And basically this application just seeks to rectify that situation by taking some land from the subject lands and adding it to the benefiting land. So it has the effect of just changing the boundary of the property to correct any setback issues that were caused with the construction of the tennis court. So there isn't any lot area issues that arise from this or any natural features that are affected by this at all. So it really just simply just changing a boundary on the line. So that's all I have to add. I don't think Jody wanted to speak specifically to this. She's here more to answer questions if anything arises that I can't answer myself. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Does council have any questions? I see none. So we will move on and close the public meeting and move on to the motion.
Thank you.
So I have a motion that the public meeting held for the following matter is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened, and that's the consent application for Chapnick. Could I have a motion? Ken and Mario? All in favor? Thank you. So I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent application number B 2024-0006-H for Chapnick, subject to the conditions set out in the decision. Motion, Terry and Gail. All in favor? Thank you very much. So that consent application is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve in principle Shore Road Allowance Application Number RAS-2024-0002-F for Shashuk, and direct staff to proceed with the application process as per the recommendation of staff report PL 2024-071, copy attached as Schedule A to this resolution. Could I have a motion to put this on the table? Greg and Mario? All in favor? Thank you. And I think we might have Taylor to explain anything if council has any questions. There is. Does council have any questions for Taylor? The staff report's pretty comprehensive. No comments, no questions, so all in favor? And that is passed. Thank you very much. Taylor, you worked hard for that one. So we move on to staff reports. I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda for July 2nd, 2024 meeting of council. Don't need to read them all, do I? So Greg moved it. And the seconder, Mario. Okay, and I think we're turning it over to Michelle and Jason for the ministerial zoning update.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll kick us off and then Michelle can jump in if she'd like. At the last meeting of council, you instructed us to go get written confirmation that the fees associated with these studies are DC eligible. You'll see a rather comprehensive memo from Hempson Consulting, who's working on our development charges background studies at this time, who have confirmed that to be the case. I certainly recognize there's been lots of questions about this process. I just wanted to reaffirm that the scope of work identified in the attached report outlines the requirements of a municipal class environmental assessment, which is in full compliance with the Environmental Assessment Act. This will deliver a complete master plan for the provision of water, wastewater, and transportation solutions for the entire 743 acres of the ministerial zoning order lands. The objective of this plan will be to build upon the conceptual level vision that has been previously explored. It'll assess potential impacts and select preferred water, wastewater, and transportation solutions, again, for the entirety of the MZO lands, meaning main transportation corridors and how and where the water, wastewater infrastructure is put together. any items related to specific parcels of land such as stormwater management, functional site servicing, site-specific servicing, noise, vibration, archaeology, hydrology, related to specific development applications, will be addressed by the developer at the time of their plan of subdivision submission. With that, your worship, happy to answer any questions. I see Michelle has joined us, and if she has anything to add, I would invite her to feel free to contribute to anything I may have missed.
Michelle, do you
No,
want to add anything?
no, I think Jason covered it all, but again, I'm here to answer any questions that council may have.
Mhm.
Councils, questions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Council.
Thank you. This survey or these costs for the secondary plan, this is pertaining to just the 100 acres that Best Homes have or bought or own.
Through
Or-
your, sorry.
Yeah,
Through-
sorry.
through-
No. I'm just like, are you talking the entire
Yes,
3
this
or
is.
4 or 500 acres on private land, or is it just the 100 acres that they are going to start developing from the starting gate?
Go ahead.
Through your worship, the master plan addresses the entire 743 acres of rezoned lands to mixed use. So it's not specific to the lands that Best and Bash developments are working on. It addresses a master plan for the entire development area.
So in other words, unless we pass this, we might as well forget about moving ahead with the RMZO.
In short, I
In
would
theory,
say.
in theory.
In theory, yes. What we would be faced with if we didn't do this is we would have disjointed development into the future as subsequent plans of subdivision come together without a connecting transportation, without a fulsome understanding of how to manage the water and wastewater needs. So this is pretty fundamental in the development process to ensuring there's a longer term vision beyond just that of the first phase of development.
Is there, so this is the first stage. Is there going to be other stages in the future? Are we just looking at a total of 900K?
To develop the Class EA that's required under the Environmental Assessment Act, this achieves that. There will be subsequent sub-studies that we may have to look at. Again, development charge eligible, anything to do as the Hempson memo outlines, anything that is derived from growth from a studies perspective, along with infrastructure, will be DC eligible. At this point, I don't know specifically what those may be into the future, but at this point in time, this is the first step, and it's a fairly significant step, and I wouldn't suspect that you see this magnitude again in the future. But the outcome of this master planning exercise will inform next steps. It'll provide capital costs associated with any infrastructure to be built, which again informs the DCs to be able to ensure that when we are able to collect the development charges, that we're collecting the right amount. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, sir, it did. Michelle, is this going to, I guess the word I'm looking for is, is this cash flow, or is it cash flow?
This is cash flow. Right now, what will happen is we will front the dollars for these studies, and it's not going to be all at once. It's going to be over the next, 12 to 16 to 18 to 24 months. We'll front those dollars, and then when we collect the development charges, it will offset those dollars.
Okay. And you're okay with it?
Absolutely.
You are the CFO. I'm hoping you're going to be here at least to the end of our term. Moving
I'm not
forward.
quite sure how to answer that, so.
Moving forward, okay,
Moving
that,
forward.
yeah, that answers all my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Counselor Bazinski.
Yeah, I certainly understand how you need to know where your major infrastructure is going to go, your water, your sewer, and your roads, no question. My concern is with some of the other studies, which I still firmly believe should be borne by the developer, because if we're paying out $800 and odd thousand upfront, do development charges also include the interest on that money? I'd like to know that.
Michelle, I think you're the best one to answer that.
Yes, Hempson's advised that any of the interest that we're going to incur if we have to debenture or borrow long-term will be folded into the DC charge calculation.
Okay, because my concern is, you know, how long is it going to take to build this out? It could take 20 years plus. And so we've got this debt on our books that our taxpayers are paying for up front. Now, as I say again, water, sewer, and roads is fine, but doing detailed environmental and geotechnical studies, I just have a problem with that because, to be honest, I think that's the part of the purview of the developer. And I know in my experience, in the GTA and other areas, what would happen is when developers owned a large piece of land, they themselves would do the block plan and they'd hire the consultants to do all of the detailed studies up front. And I don't understand why we wouldn't do that, except that it does expedite, it makes it easier for the developers because they don't have to upfront the studies and carry the money on their balance sheets. But I'm not convinced that the township should be carrying the money on our balance sheet, even though we can probably afford it, maybe more than some of the developers. But if it's just in order to encourage the developers, then, you know, that's a strategic discussion, which is again something else. But
Thank you. Through your worship, to your point, Councillor Bazinski, these studies will give us a master plan for the provisions of freshwater supply, wastewater treatment, including any effluent and outflows, and the primary roads and transportation corridors, including, as I mentioned before, capital costs to build that infrastructure. That's the focus of the study, and that's what the study will undertake to achieve. That's the outcome, is a master plan that defines those deliverables. The developers are still responsible on their, at the time of acquisition and the development process, they're still responsible for their own studies on those properties as well, which include stormwater management planning, functional servicing, their hydro-G, environmental, traffic impact, noise vibration. We have to acknowledge that there is rail corridors in here, archaeology, and any other studies that we deem a requirement to fulfill the needs of our due diligence with respect to their planning applications. So fundamental is, though, how and where are they connecting to the main services? And that is why this study is in front of you for consideration today, Council. They'll still be responsible for all of the remainder of those studies that I just talked about. And it, again, will pay for, through the development charges, the water, wastewater, and roads portion. This portion of the planning that's before you today will be paid for through the developers at the time of building permit.
Another question?
yeah, just a question. We do have a preliminary road alignment subject to some tweaks, and we do know where the services from Perry Sound in terms of water and sewage would tie into the area. The only thing we don't know is if we'd get the services from Parry Sound, but that's another discussion. So I'm still having a problem with detailed, species at risk, carrying capacity for Richmond Lake, those types of things. I'm having a hard time understanding how that would fit in, because clearly a Class EA will have to be done for the roads, for the water and the sewer. That's given. And another concern is that if we do these studies today and nothing happens with the bulk of the lands for 10 years, we're going to have to update the studies because they're not going to be acceptable to the government because things change, environment changes, wildlife changes. So it's not that I'm against doing whatever we have to do to move the MZO forward. It's just that I don't want to see the township spending money that I personally think some of which is not necessary. Not the whole 900,000, but a part of it, definitely. That's just my comments on it.
Through your worship, I agree. We know where services, the potential for service connections are from our neighbors to the north. To date, there hasn't been any agreements put in place to share services. In fact, it's been quite the opposite. This EA will explore options and alternatives to a shared service model with the town of Parry Sound. If that shared service opportunity isn't there, then at least we've done our due diligence and explored alternative options. You brought up Richmond Lake, and I'll highlight why Richmond Lake has been identified. In the grand scheme of developing 743 acres, there's a couple of different water sources that we'll have to look at from both where we may potentially draw fresh water and where potentially effluent coming from a wastewater treatment plant may end up. Richmond Lake is a fairly sensitive lake that needs to be explored and made sure that we're doing the right things to protect the environment, to protect Richmond Lake. And again, when we look at things like species at risk and the various environmental studies that'll be done here, again, that's under the context of where those key infrastructure corridors are going to be, so that we are not proposing to put a road right through a rattlesnake gestation area. We have to ensure that we're doing the right things by putting the infrastructure in the right places. And we can't do that without studying and understanding what the potential environmental impacts are. And that's why the list of studies that's been outlined in the report is there. And again, all of this is under the context of a class environmental assessment, which again, we're following the Class EA Act to make sure that we achieve the objectives set out by the provincial government and ensure we're in compliance.
Councillor Vincent?
That was my question. Don't you have to do the environmental assessment to put for your roads? Like, you have to know where you put if you can't put a building, then why would you put a road? So that was my question, was, do you almost have to do the environmental studies because you're putting in the roads? Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess that's something I want to say. This is the first step after we got the MZO of making ourselves compliant with the act. What's the name of the act? It's the Environmental Assessment Act and the Planning Act. We have to do this before a developer can do their studies. And don't forget, 3 meetings ago, we had a developer here who said he's ready to dig a hole once these studies are in place and we can say there's water and wastewater. So I'm not nervous that we'll be 10 years before we dig a hole. Jason and I have met with the development company that has already purchased a fair chunk of land, and their cash is on the line now. So in order to move the MZO forward, this is the next step, as far as I'm concerned, and it's a legislated next step. Councillor Bazinski.
Yeah, I'm not debating the fact that the studies have to be done. My only debate is on whether or not we should be doing them or the developer should be doing them. That's clearly where I'm coming from. And, you know, it will be the will and of the majority of council, which way we go. The only thing is that, you know, are we confident in this developer and other developers? Have you seen financial records that show that the company is viable over the long term? Okay, well, that's good to know. You're shaking your head yes, so then that's fine. Yeah, I just, you know, clearly I'm just concerned for the ratepayers of the township that they don't get stuck with this. Could Michelle maybe tell us, like, for, call it 900,000, do we have to levy any tax, or is this going to be found from internal? Like in,
This does not affect the tax rate at all. This is a cash flow issue. It's not going to be easy because fronting $1 million is never easy, but it is doable.
so you have confidence that we won't have to increase taxes in the next year because of cash flow issues?
Not because of this specific cash flow issue, no.
You should be a lawyer, Michelle.
Well, and I guess just from a point of view of, would we want the one developer who's got his cash on the line to do the studies? He could do the study and we might have a road that ended nowhere because he'd be stopping at the border of his 100 acres.
Yep.
And I want to know that the roads are going to flow for the next generations. So I want a road plan that looks at the whole thing and connects to the whole community of Seguin and probably the town of Perry Sound overall. And I think that's where we're going here. Let's look at the big picture, the long picture, so that the studies do take the whole piece of land and do it for many, many generations going forward. Councillor Collins, I see your hand up.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. I think too, one of the concerns my colleagues may have, as I have, is do they have, and I'm just going to slang, do they have any skin in the game? I mean, this is all going to be on our shoulders. It's close to $1 million. Other than buying the property, you know, years ago, other than buying, they want to develop. It would have been nice to see on these financials that, oh, Best Homes have 250,000 on the line as well, where we're footing the 100% of the cost at this time. Because if you remember, when this first came up, I said we were floating alone, and everybody said no. Now it is. Now I'm hearing we are floating alone. So that's my only concern. I'm not going to stand against our MZO if Michelle handles the the costs of everything, the cash flow moving forward, and she's okay with it. Well, I'm definitely okay with it. I know, Jason, you made a great report for everyone here to understand, but maybe in the future, you might want to say, like bring up something like a report at this stage of monies for information, and then we'll vote on it as we are now 2 weeks later, so we totally understand exactly what's going on. Thank you.
I'm not entirely sure the exact amount of money that Best Developments has had on the line to buy the property, but they've been sitting on it for over 18 months. I know they're carrying interest of positive $10,000 a month to carry that. So they're anxious to get busy. I can also tell you that they are a company that's been in discussions with serious donations to the pool in the 8-figure figure. If you look at their financials, it's a private company, but they're very solid. So have they got any money in the game? They've had money since they closed the deal on their acreage on interest monthly.
I'll just add, your worship, you know, I don't want to get into the final details of all of the developers' nickels and dimes, but they were here and have demonstrated to council a number of their current projects and past projects. I'll also suggest to you that the list of studies that I walked through earlier that are developer responsibilities, they're well on their way to completing a number of those studies. So they didn't just purchase land, they're investing in it and preparing for development. You know, there was quite a bit of discussion when they punched in a temporary construction road so they could gain access in to be able to do their hydro G and do their surveys. They're investing in the property to ensure that when the master plan that identifies water, wastewater is in place, they'll be ready to connect and they'll get to work right away. So I wouldn't have brought to you a developer who was tire kicking. I only brought you a developer that's prepared to make a major investment. That's why Mr. Cameron was here and why he put on the presentation that he did, was just to show council and the community that, you know, he's serious, his company's serious, and they're making investments into the future of development here in Westbury Sound.
And I can tell you, he's got a whole team of his own engineers working on stuff like the temporary road, like other stuff. So they're busy at his head office on this land. Any further questions? Councillor Getty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's more of a comment. I see this as being a 30,000-foot document looking down, because the reality is that this is not one parcel of land. It's multiple parcels of land that the development responsibilities and tests that need to be done are the responsibilities of the builder. I think it would be improper. It would be, not negligent isn't the right word, but be short-sighted if we didn't want to coordinate how that will build out just from a primary corridor perspective. And I think that, I too have concerns that, we can go down a slippery slope in regards to trying to make things attractive for developers to come in. I think we have a responsibility to ensure that doesn't happen. But I think for me personally, I'm comfortable with this because I think it allows us to look at, okay, when we open this up, we are going, here's our 1 or 2 primary corridors. All the secondary corridors and feeders are going to come off, are going to be I believe, and if I'm wrong, tell me, but just so that I'm comfortable, that they become the responsibility of the individual developers of those parcels of land. So I think that I'm comfortable with the fact also that we are able to recover those. Without being able to recover, I would have a real problem with it. And I have concerns because, the housing market in many places is slowing. So the chances where we thought it may have been developed out in 2 or 3 years, the reality is it may be 4 or 5. But as by Michelle acknowledging for me that, all the interests will be DC eligible to come back, I'm comfortable at this point. As things come forward, if there's more, I may not be as comfortable. I'm putting it on the table, but for this process here, I think it would be, I'd like to see that community plan, not patchwork, but as a process going forward. So thank you.
I'll just highlight the report spells it out pretty good. And I think Councillor Getty, you're bang on here. What we're trying to avoid by doing this master plan is a fragmented and unplanned development into the future. We've seen communities across Ontario, across this country, that have made these mistakes, and you end up with a road that hits some magical line on a map that is a boundary, and then it has to jog up who knows how long before it gets reconnected, and then you have additional costs related to the infrastructure, water, wastewater, and roads, that if it's not done properly up front, you're going to have a troublesome development into the future. And you're absolutely right. These collector roads are DC eligible. The local roads where the houses would primarily front would be the responsibility of the developer to build those roads, but they need to know what they're connecting to.
And on that, as you're mentioning that, I can see that if we only put the focus, if we allow the focus to be done by the preliminary developer, we may end up with arterial roads that go nowhere, which may not then allow us, after they're built out, to even access the property in behind. So I think it's, for me, I'm comfortable with moving it forward from a 30,000 foot level. As it moves forward, may have different feelings, but thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion on the table, or a resolution on the table. All in favor? Okay, so that is 6-1. Carried. July 2. Thank you. Okay, I think the next one is Taylor, who gave us a very comprehensive summary of Bill 185. I tried to look at the bill without your help, and thank you for simplifying it. Do you want to go over it? Do people have questions? It's a very comprehensive staff report at a high level because it's a lot of pages. Thank you very much for sending it to me, Taylor. We got Councillor Getty.
Good afternoon, Taylor. Taylor, I had a question going through the summary. Thank you for the document. It's excellent. But I mean, to try to go through all of the official provincial document was very difficult within the timelines that we had it. But my question, the one I really wanted to ask was on page 93. Some changes include paragraph 1. As it relates to rural areas, which the majority of Seguin is, the draft statement does not propose significant changes to the 2020 PPS related to rural areas. However, it is notable that unlike the 2023 draft, the latest proposal does not identify multi-lot residential development as envisioned in rural lands. And this may complicate the approach to date in Seguin's draft official plan to allow the consideration of rural subdivisions in certain circumstances. My question is, how do you see it complicating it?
I don't really know yet. I've got to do a bit more, or through you, Your Worship. I don't really know yet. I have to do a bit more research into that. It might not be a major issue. It was just something that really stood out to me of one of the bigger, probably the only departure between the last draft that they released versus this one. So you might have to bear with me as I dig in a little bit further and as we go through our official plan review process. My guess is that the province will want to, again, go back to the ideology of what local municipalities deem locally appropriate, which is a fancy way of saying as what our official plan prescribes.
And then my follow-up question to that is, based on the fact that we just approved a 30,000 foot level assessment of the MZO lands, which would be a multi-unit, multi-lot residential development, is there then the potential for it to affect the MZO going forward?
Through your worship, if we did it incorrectly, yes, there is the potential for that. With the MZO going forward, we will have policies that do direct development to it, because essentially it's going to be our urban service settlement area. So we would have to ensure that we are directing growth to those areas. And for instance, we wouldn't want to have extremely loose or competitive rural lot creation policies that allow people to do it just outside of it much easier and cheaper. So we'll have to ensure that the official plan on the balance is, or on the whole is balanced and takes this all into account and is reasonable in the rural areas, but now has a focus to settlement areas like the MZO.
So I guess that leads to a third question then. I only had two, but I'll throw three in. Does that potentially delay our revised or new official plan? How far down the road could that potentially kick it?
Through your worship, I don't think it's going to delay it. A lot of this draft paperwork is already done in the files of our computer. I did note somewhere in this report that there's likely going to be a staff report coming forward requesting assistance in order to get it to the next level, just because it's such a behemoth of a topic that we're having a difficult time handling it as staff, especially in the summer months. I'm still waiting for a quote though before I can bring that report to council, so I'm hoping to get it within a month or two and see what council has to say in that regard.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you. And I also noted, didn't I somewhere, Taylor, that municipal affairs still isn't accepting official plans, are they?
As far as I'm aware, they are not.
So
Last I've heard that
can't
they
even submit it.
do not want to approve any official plans until the latest PPS is in effect. Logic of which makes sense. If they were to approve a PPS, or sorry, an official plan today, it would be under the 2020 PPS. And if the 2024 PPS is approved, let's say next week, it's already a stale document.
Thank you. Anybody else got questions? Good. No. Well, thank you very much for summarizing, Taylor. You get the prize for the biggest and longest documents you have to review and understand. So thank you very much for that report. So we move on to business. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin hereby supports the Community Support Services funding application to provide the Mobile Seniors Active Living Center program. Could I have a motion? Gail and Terry. And I'll speak briefly to this. We were asked for a resolution that they could use when they apply for grants. There are no grants that they are yet eligible for, but through experience, they've found that some of these grants come with like a 1-week timeline. So they're asking all of the municipalities to just have a support resolution in place that we support the program. So all in favor? Thank you. It's an amazing program. So. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby accept the resignation of Marg Arola from the Township Seguin Public Library Board and thank Ms. Arola for her service on the board. Could I have a motion? Ken, Mario? All in favor? And you guys write those thank you notes, don't you? Yes. Okay. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby support the North Bay and District Chamber of Commerce Rural Community Immigration Pilot Expression of Interest application and authorize the attached letter of support. Could I have a motion to this? Terry and Ken. And this came up, I think at FONUM, that this funding stops at North Bay, but we have some immigrants, so we want to be included. So that's what it is. All in favor? Thank you. I have a motion that bylaw number 2024-068 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a municipal funding agreement on the Canada Community Building Fund between the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and the Corporation of the Township of Seguin is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion? Ken? And seconded, Mario. And I'll ask Michelle to give you a little bit of a background. This is a new name for the gas tax.
This is our gas tax. Yes, this is just the extension of our original agreement with the gas tax going forward for another 10 years.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2024-069, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw number 2022-087 and amend bylaws number 2022-125 and 2023-017 to revoke the appointment of Rory Payton as Supervisor of Municipal Bylaw Services, a municipal law enforcement officer and animal control officer, and inspector under the Residential Tenancies Act for the Corporation of the Township of Seguin is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion? Terry, seconded. Greg, all in favor? Thank you. And we'll do council reports, and how about we start with you, Ken?
June the 19th, I attended the Recreation and Culture meeting. June the 20th, I had a museum meeting. June the 24th, I had a special meeting of council. We all did. June the 27th was the staff barbecue. It was great, well attended, and my compliments to the chefs. Later that day, I attended another museum meeting. June the 28th, I met with constituents about rezoning Garden Court Drive, on Garden Court Drive, and that's all. Thank you.
Busy person. Mario.
Yeah, well, I attended the special council meeting on the 24th as well. Oh, sorry, thank you. Attended the special council meeting on the 24th as well. Unfortunately, something came up which prevented me from coming to the barbecue, but I did ensure that all my responsibilities were met. And as I wasn't going to be cooking anyway, probably wasn't a great loss. I did go down to the Rosso Market on its opening day, and I thought that it was very well done. And I wandered over towards the commercial operation there, and there's all sorts of different things happening in association with the marina. And I didn't go upstairs, but I think they're getting ready for their patio as well. It looks like a very worthwhile addition to the Rosso waterfront. So I was quite pleased with that. And I was also quite pleased to see that I didn't notice any boats that were parking on Seguin docks for any extended period of time. So I think bylaw has been doing a good job there, getting the word out. And that's all.
Greg?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The special council meeting on the 24th. Subsequent to that, I had meetings with the Three Lake Association as well as the Clear Lake Association. And then I attended out at Lakeland Power Generation out in Bracebridge. It was an excellent visit. Their water management plan for the three lakes, Whitefish, Little Whitefish, and Clear Lake, is quite intensive. They handle a huge series of watersheds. Very little power is generated from the Seguin watershed currently, but they are intimately involved in our water quality and water level management. As a result, right now we're covered under an interim water management report, which is a federal document. The meeting with Three Lake and Clear Lake Associations and Lakeland, we're working, Jason and I've had discussions, and we're going to be working to get those levels solidified, because the economic and recreational impact of the fluctuation levels that are currently in the interim report could be disastrous to the Three Lakes. So we'll hopefully have that done in the next, hopefully by the end of the summer, realistically. And that's enough Thank you.
Thanks. Terry?
I attended the rec meeting. I also attended the family fun night in Rossel, which was excellent. And I also attended the barbecue, which was excellent as well. And I have a couple meetings this week, but other than that, not too much going on.
Ted, you're next.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I guess I'll start off with Star Lake Road. That's being done finally. Finally, there's crews, there's detours, there's asphalt being laid. And thank God calls have diminished on that project. Cogeco, they were at my door. I'm already ready to go with Cogeco. Their fiber high-speed internet. They've been going to the settlement areas and putting in their instrumentation, their multi-taps on the lines, and they said they will be energizing in October 24. So I'm proud. I'm happy. I was a server at the staff barbecue. I got to meet a lot of nice staff that I didn't know we had so many. But it was a great time had by all. And of course, I had the Canada Day in Orville. Yes, I was there. I was there to make my speech, welcome everyone there, and sing "O Canada." So it was a great day. Everybody made money, and everybody had a good time. So hey, and I have to say, Canada is the greatest country in the world by far. And thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Councillor Vincent.
Hi, I went to the family fun night. It was fantastic. Talked to a lot of people. They really enjoyed themselves. It was lovely. And even though there was the threat of rain, it was a bit chilly. It was great. I attended a meeting for Belvedere Heights for finance. Their finances are in good shape. I also attended, that was on the 24th. I attended the special council meeting on the 24th as well. June 26th, I attended the Board of Management meeting for Belvedere Heights, and they're well on their way working with the 22 beds. And we had a closed meeting, but it will all be coming out soon, and it's all fantastic. So it's really good stuff. I went to look at the property today with Councillor Getty, the property on Maplehurst. So we did that, went to look there. Thoroughly enjoyed the staff lunch, thoroughly enjoyed the staff, and talked to a nice young man who was very tall. And he started to giggle and said, "You should see me getting on the school bus." He was in high school. He was the tallest fellow I've ever seen, but so pleasant and so sweet, and had a really lovely conversation with them, and said he really likes working with the township. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So we're into summer events now, and June 19th was the inauguration of the shared crosswalk at Soxing outside their meeting center. I hope you've seen it on Facebook and some of the posts. I will urge all of council needs to be on the seguin.ca feeds for, I was going to say Twitter, but X, Instagram, and Facebook to see some of the excitement that's happening, because it was really quite something to see the kids walk across the crosswalk for the first time. June 20th was the Belvedere AGM for councils, which I attended. And the 21st, family fun night. And I'd like to a big shout out to staff who, in spite of many rain showers before it started and after, put on a fabulous event. And it didn't actually rain during the event. So I know staff staff worked through several rain showers to make it what it was. So thank you. And the 24th was our special council meeting. On Tuesday, the 25th, I attended the Humphrey grade 8 graduation. And I just have to do a shout out to Humphrey. They do a beautiful job of their graduation. In fact, I think they outshine the high school in terms of the quality of way they pay tribute to the graduating class. It was pretty fun. The class got to pick their theme. So they were all dressed up to the nines, but their theme was let's go to the beach. So in addition to all the finery they were wearing, they were all in flip-flops and sunglasses. So it was kind of fun. And then the council staff barbecue is always fun. And then on the 30th on Sunday, I attended a special Aspen Wildlife Sanctuary open house, which again was in inclement weather, but the animals that we were looking at didn't seem to mind. Just a reminder to all of you council people, I need your RSVPs for the event on the 12th. And a reminder that after today, our CAO is on vacation for 2 weeks. So we will manage just fine for the next 2 weeks. Your turn.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick reminder that Seguin's summer programming is well underway with especially busy pickleball courts. Lots of activity starting yesterday at our rink as the ice is back in for summer hockey and summer skating, and of course our beaches. There's still some open spaces available for swim lessons at the Rosso Waterfront and the Foley Matheson Beach locations. So we encourage everybody to visit seguin.ca/swim for any details if you're interested. The Seguin Public Library's community survey is open until July 19th. Residents are encouraged to share their thoughts to help inform future programming. You can visit letsconnectseguin.ca to have your say. Especially excited because the township will be hosting a free online seminar on July 25th that will highlight several of the township's key environmental and climate change initiatives. This will provide residents and interested stakeholders with an opportunity to ask questions and learn more about how to get involved with the various projects going on around the community. And last but not least, just a quick reminder that the Rosso Memorial Hall is turning 100 this August. The township is working with partners in the community to host a day-long centennial celebration on August the 16th. There'll be live music, tributes to the hall's history, refreshments, and much more. Again, watch our website and social media channels for more information. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. We got any questions? So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the board and committee minutes and agendas and the correspondence as presented on the agenda for the July 2nd, 2024 meeting of council. Motion, Mario and Ken. All in favor? And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 3:29 p.m. in order to address matters pertaining to a proposed or pending acquisition of or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Could I have a motion to move into closed? Greg and Mario. All in favor? Thank you. Oh, I see. Okay, so I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby rise from the closed session and declare the regular meeting reconvened at 3:32 p.m. Motion, Gail and Terry. All in favor? So now we have the bylaw on the land. So I have a motion that bylaw number 2024-067, being a bylaw to establish land as part of a public highway, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, Plan 42R-21066 is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion? Ken? And a seconder? Craig? All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2024-070, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of meetings of council, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. I need a mover. All in favor? And I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn this regular meeting of council at 3:33 PM. Wow is right. To meet again on Monday, July 15th, 2024, or at the call of the mayor. Mary and Gail. All in favor? Thank you, everyone, for a quick meeting.